Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Dish with Dina YouTube channel, Dish with Dina TV. I'm Dina the Dietitian, helping you embrace and develop new relationships with food. Every so often, I like to pop on here and do a standalone video. And this is perfect timing because March is National Nutrition Month. And it's not the anniversary of when I became a dietitian, but I thought I would reflect a little bit about my journey as a dietitian and especially on YouTube, because I see a lot of my YouTube colleagues and some other people that I follow on this channel who are putting together videos about having less than 500 subscribers. And I definitely have less than 500. I think I have 168 at the time of this recording. And that's no small feat. I mean, if I look at all of the social media platforms that I'm on, how lovely to be able to reach a wide variety of people who want to listen to what I have to say, hopefully, and engage with it and glean something from it, whether it's education, entertainment, information. So what I normally do on this channel, I should say a few things that I do on this channel. I've had a podcast now for about 3 years, the Dish with Dina podcast, found on pretty much every single platform you can think of, Apple or Spotify, etc. I'm currently in the process of ending season 7 and going into season 8, but I've only been recording for 3 years. So I do a dozen episodes every season, and I'm going to be starting to record season 8. And I think at the beginning of season 6 or season 7 is when I started working with audio and video. I was just doing audio before, and now I've decided to record on video, and then I take the video format and I upload it to YouTube. So now I'm doing weekly podcast episodes that are on the podcast platforms, and then you get to see it on here if audio is not your thing and you prefer to watch the discussion instead of listen to the discussion. And then every month for the last 6 years or so, I've been doing a monthly topic specific wellness webinar for free. A lot of the stuff I do is for free, and that is recorded for the registrants who sign up and attend or participate in it. And then about like a month or so after the replay is sent out to the people who were signed up to watch the webinar when it was happening, then I upload it to my YouTube channel so that it's available for public viewing. In case you weren't able or you didn't know it was happening, then you get to see it. So I thought maybe I'd do a little bit of, behind the scenes, history of, and also the fact that I'm a dietitian. So of course, National Nutrition Month is something that we're all super in love with. But I don't know if I want to talk too much about the nutrition factors, just about my journey in all of this, and also to say thank you to all of you. I don't know how much time you spend watching these videos or following me on the other social media platforms, or maybe you're not a subscriber and you pass by, watch something, and then peace out. Of course, I would always encourage you to smash that subscribe button, as the kids say, and follow along or share this, because that's how small YouTubers like me grow. And so what I'm coming from a place of here is nothing too specialized, right? So I'm a registered dietitian. I want to talk a little bit more in a general way. And when I started this channel, I mean, I might have started it just because I was watching other videos, but when I started actively creating content on here, I was trying to have it as a platform of sharing information about if somebody was recently diagnosed with a chronic condition, how they would be able to navigate that new world of theirs, understanding, because not everybody gets the feedback that they need or the actual information, unfortunately, from their healthcare provider. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, you've been diagnosed, and off you go. So I thought, let me give some guidance as to, you've been recently diagnosed with something, or you've been told you're at risk for something, and so let me share a little bit of that information. So if you go way back in time, I can't remember what year it was when I started this, you'll see I have a playlist called, I think it was called the 4-week fast track series. There is I think 4 or 6 videos on gaining kitchen confidence, of helping people create meal plans and inventory their kitchen and become a little bit more savvier in the supermarket, reading nutrition labels, etc. Then I have a whole playlist on taking off the pressure, because I also deal with high blood pressure issues. So I thought that would be a great way for me to share information for anybody who's dealing with high blood pressure or could be at risk for high blood pressure. And it's broken down into, 4-part series, so it's manageable, 20 to 30 minutes a piece. I know how everybody works on here. Very instant gratification. So I thank you if any of that resonated with you. If you're hanging out and you come back and you pay attention to the things that I do, I'm going to try to get a little bit better. I can't say weekly because it's a lot. It's a lot to create stuff and repurposing things now with short form videos. Like on YouTube, we have the YouTube shorts. On the other platforms, we have, TikTok and reels on Instagram. It's a lot. It's a lot. Even if I'm taking stuff that I'm already recording, I have to reformat it and put different music to it. And it's exhausting. And I'm a small YouTuber and a small business owner. I'm an entrepreneur behind the scenes with a private practice, and I juggle a million things. And what am I? I'm an adjunct professor for undergraduate and graduate nutrition studies up at one of our colleges here in New York City. So anyway, point being, I don't have a lot of time to do this on my own, and I don't have the funds just yet to hire somebody to help me do this. I'm no longer doing those batch playlists because I'm converting those now into online courses. It's a lot of stuff to share, and it's very specific. So I just want to make sure people are getting what they need out of it. I'm going to be putting those up as a paid service, paid product. I think I'm still sticking to $28 for 28 days. So 4 weeks worth of courses and materials and all those things that you'll eventually get. I'm still working on it. So I don't want to say that they're launched just yet, but coming soon. Maybe by the time you watch this as an anniversary episode, I'll have gotten my act together. My journey to becoming a dietitian, way back in 2012, I had been working for about 4 years for the New York City Department of Health. And in general, a lot of the stuff that I was doing in life, because I've juggled a variety of different positions, but I've always had kind of like a project management background. It was just taking a toll on me. There was a lot of emergency management responses that we were dealing with, and I was not cut from that cloth, unfortunately. I had a project management mindset, not an emergency responder background or mindset. And so it was really taking a toll on me. And I suffered, stress and gastrointestinal issues and my blood pressure. And so I thought, what do I want to do next? And I think I want to invest in getting a higher degree because I had a Bachelor of Arts in communication at the time, which is why I like doing things like this. And I thought, let me go into maybe public health or not medicine, but something along the lines of like healthcare. And I decided to go back to school. I looked up some information. I met with some people. I interviewed some people who were involved in nutrition. And there are definitely different ways, different routes of going through it. If you are not aware, I'm happy to put together a video all about that. And I decided to go back to school. So I went back for originally a second degree undergrad, Bachelor of Science, which eventually turned into some 8 years later or so, 6 years later or so, a Master of Science in Nutrition. And within that was the process of becoming a registered dietitian. So in our country, in America, we have to go through the academic part of all of that, which is known as a didactic process. And then we also have to, for 1 year, unpaid, we have to go through a supervised practice, which means that we are on site at hospitals, nursing homes, health clinics, public health stuff, school settings, community outpatient research. So there's so many different things that we do. So I think it turns out to be about 1,200 hours within a 12-month. Within 12 months of time, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type of deal. And because it was also with the graduate program, we were also going to the classes in the evenings, and there was a ton of homework. So it was quite overwhelming. When I went back to school, I was the tender age of 43. I wasn't really cut out for all of the challenges and the sleep deprivation. I half joke that here it is flashing forward some 6 years after my actual credential. I think I'm still suffering the consequences of some of that. That came about because, as I said, I was kind of about a lot of the jobs I was doing, but I was also suffering like physical symptoms and mental symptoms of just being burnt out and having to manage some chronic conditions. And I thought, let me learn a little bit about this, and maybe I could be helpful to people out there who are dealing with the same thing. I'm also I guess it's called a first generation Italian American. I come from a family that were immigrants. They came over from Italy. So I was raised with a variety of different mindsets around food and nourishment and the control sometimes around creating your own food and not buying food from outside sources or not necessarily being exposed to other cultures or different neighborhoods. When I started going back to school, that's where it really opened up all that for me. I really loved culinary stuff. Like I used to do catering and I was a personal chef, and I thought that was kind of interesting how to marry those things along with also the background in communication, and to see like, maybe I'll do food demos or I'll do like a teaching kitchen or something. What was that, 2013, when I first set foot back to walking into a new school, a new area of learning that I hadn't had in 20 years as an adult learner. I was very, very fortunate, very grateful to have had some financial support from my family and my significant other because I basically quit everything and went back to school full time. I wanted to experience life as a college student. When I had gone to my bachelor's degree, I didn't have that. I was on campus for 1 year as a resident full time, but then things happened and I had to get off that campus and go to a different school entirely. And I ended up kind of doing that part time cobbled together. So I was working and then going to school. So I didn't really get a chance to like join clubs or be part of the leadership programs or I don't know, just be a part of the integration that is the campus community. And so I deserved that the second time around. The YouTube channel came from a time which oh gosh, I want to say like 11 years ago when I first looked at YouTube. But then as I was, doing the things and going through the schooling and coming a little bit closer to my official credential, I thought, let me share some information on this platform. And I came to learn that, and maybe even now too, that YouTube is the second largest search engine, second to Google. And it gave me an opportunity to own the content in a way that some other social media platforms do not, especially now with a lot of the things like they kind of throttle stuff. Again, you have to adhere to certain algorithms and some of the materials I can't even like download. Like I've created them and I don't have access to them. At least here I can make and create content and then share it with all of you and then use some of this stuff in the other social media platforms that I'm on. I also noticed coming from a place of how I identified. I'm a woman. I was at the time approaching my menopausal years. I do not have children. I live in New York City. There's a particular lifestyle that I am comfortable with, but I also recognize that people might relate to me because I make them feel really comfortable when we have these conversations. As I learned also about disparities and health inequities in the system itself, I started taking a very mindful approach to things like weight, food and cultures, traditional habits that people have. And I really came to understand it's so important to meet people where they're at, to honor and respect the individual, to make sure that whatever I'm doing isn't just a copy paste, one size fits all approach, is to really customize the discussion with the patient population or the clients that I meet with. And I think I've gotten a lot of really good feedback in the past handful of years, as you can see from my testimonials page, if you go to my website. And so I really want to keep doing this. Some of the challenges are that who has time? And if I do hand things over, I swear I'm not a perfectionist. I promise. I know people think I am. I do like having control over things, and I think I'm really good at doing things, but I'm okay with handing things over. My issue has been that when I work with certain people that either they don't understand the vision or maybe I don't manage it properly and I kind of just assume they'll do what I want them to do. And so sometimes I've had to go back and undo or redo things or just thrown things out and start over, which is again time consuming and overwhelming because my brain, I'm one of those neurodivergent people who it's a lot of energy sucking from when I do these things. So I can only block so much time in the course of a week to work on content like this or put together webinars. And then I feel like I was going to say a 4-hour nap. It's more like a 4-day nap, I think sometimes. I'm trying to see if there is a way for me to work with somebody in a bit of a more part-time basis. And of course, I would pay them. I always want to make sure I can value somebody's time and give them money for whatever their experience or expertise is. But I also have to ramp up stuff. So that takes a while, right? You plan things, you have to ramp things up. Okay, so the podcast came about 3 years ago because, well, you know what happened, technically 4 years ago now. We entered into a world where things were shut down, locked down. At the same time, my mom was going through some medical issues and she was hospitalized for a while after taking a fall, and the world had shut down. So I basically just moved in with her. This is actually where I'm at right now. When you see me in this room, I'm in her home in the guest bedroom, which is about 6 million times bigger than my wee apartment in New York City. And so I moved in with her for about 8 months from March to November of 2020. Consequently, because of all of the things that were going on back then, I lost about 83% of my income, my business, because I was doing a lot of things on site, like corporate wellness events. I was just starting to get involved in taking health insurance and working in network with insurance companies and getting patients through that. And then things started shutting down. And there was this whole thing about telehealth and whether or not healthcare providers would get reimbursed for that. So it was a little bit of a navigating thing while I was waiting to get paperwork in. That kind of stunk. And of course, idle minds and idle hands, et cetera, as the case is. And I was kind of caregiving for for my mom as well. So I needed to have an outlet of some sort. So I started doing the podcast. I reached out and I was like, hey, anybody want to be a guest on my podcast? And so that was where it started. It started with me interviewing anybody from anywhere about their earliest experiences and memories around food, like what influenced them positively or negatively. And then did any of their food experiences lead them to where they are now? So many of my podcast guests were also healthcare providers or in the health and wellness space. So food was a part of what they were interested in. So we had conversations around that. Now, as of I think, oh gosh, I think it was last season. I can't remember. I can't keep track of any of this. As of last season, to make it more efficient for myself, you don't know this, but being a project manager, I have a lot of productivity background, but I rarely talk about systems and things in these videos and on a lot of my programs. But the point is that to be efficient, I tried to see how I can just make everything kind of equal across the board. So if I'm focusing on a weekly wellness topic or a monthly awareness theme, whether it's, kidney health or heart disease or whatever, I just figured, let me then interview people who are specialists in that field or somebody who has a connection to that particular topic. And then I can just right across the board, I can create a long form video like this. I can create a webinar. I can write a long form blog post, and then I can take all of that content in addition to the episode interviewed guest for my podcast, and then everything kind of mirrors and reflects the same theme across the board, and it feels a little bit more consistent, and it also makes me feel like I'm doing things consistently, because that is what we have come to learn on the social media platform. Consistency is key. So the podcast and the webinars and all those things kind of came about and married up, and so now I feel like I'm hitting a groove as of the beginning of this year. At the time of this recording, it's 2024. It's March right now, but for the last 3 months, I feel like I'm hitting a groove with being somewhat consistent with what I'm doing on YouTube. But like I said, I don't really do these standalone videos ever. I think the last one I did was my little Lunar New Year from a couple of years ago, like a day in the life of me as I was treating myself to a self-care Sunday. And this is the only time that I'm really coming back on here and speaking directly to the camera without interviewing anybody. So the testimonials, the anecdotes, the feedback I've been getting, everybody's been really excited about just, being interviewed. They think I do really well at that. So I love that. When we have our webinars, when I teach in school, I get very good feedback. So I know that I'm good at this. I know that I'm good at educating you or whoever is out there. Makes sense, especially in the healthcare discussions, of what your doctor might not have told you, where you might need to go next, what the questions you might have to ask when you're going back to the doctor or working with a specialist or working with a dietitian. And so I really do want to continue doing that, and I hope that you will allow me to do that. So looking ahead, again, this is 2024. So being more consistent with my podcast episodes, recording, and then uploading the video versions to the YouTube channel every week, doing the monthly free webinars. The ones that I'm going to work on stuff that's paid, I won't share that because that's not fair to people who pay for it. But the things that I do for free, for sure, I'm happy to spread the wealth and just share with whomever is interested in seeing that. And so I'll continue doing that on a monthly basis. And then maybe once every couple of weeks or so, or once a month on a different day, because I think I usually publish things on like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll do something like a standalone video where maybe I do a little bit of a behind the scenes or a day or a week in the life of me or a productivity video. That's real hot on YouTube, right? What I'd love from you, if you have watched this far, is share with me in the comments or connect with me in some way, because all of my links are everywhere. Whatever is interesting to you. Obviously, don't put online anything too private. Don't share with me, any complications or like lab values or anything that you would want to keep confidential, because that's an oath that I have taken also. I'm not sharing your confidential information. But if there's something that I haven't yet spoken about, not specifically like me working as your dietitian, although I'm happy to do that too, that's a whole different story depending on what state you live and what kind of insurance I take, etc. On this platform and on the other social media platforms, just topics of interest. And it doesn't always have to be about food and nutrition, my friends, because there are so many different factors that all lead us into the same direction of how our behaviors are or what affects our ability to eat and stay nourished. So we're talking about resources like food access, healthcare access, quality, quantity, affordability, location, environmental things. I also love collaborating with a lot of other people in places that I am not a specialist in, like mental health. I mean, I have a lot of experience having mental health issues myself, and I'm very open and transparent about that, but I don't have a background or a credential of being a therapist. So I have conversations with people who are therapists or from the social worker background or behavioral background, and I ask them to come and share information with me, either interviewing them or giving me some resources that I can relay to you. So sometimes we'll talk about, food and nutrition. We'll talk about sleep. Sleep is a huge, huge factor in maintaining optimal health, however you want to define that, quality and quantity of sleep, things that affect our sleep as well. Also, how sleep issues can affect and put us at risk for other chronic conditions down the line, like neurodegenerative situations. We could also talk about physical activity and exercise, because I'm working out doesn't come naturally to me. And I really do try my best to do as much as I can when I can, but that's one of the first things that I set aside. So maybe in your case, it's something that you enjoy doing, or you might need some accountability or some support. So we can also talk about physical activity, at least the general recommendations. And maybe I bring on a personal trainer or a yoga instructor or a movement coach or something like that, physical therapist, and we have conversations about that. So food, mood, sleep, and exercise, as I say. If anything is interesting to you, if anything that you would like for me to share with you, to do some research on, and then give you evidence-based information, but also with my spin and my take on it, with how I think it could be easily delivered to somebody who is not necessarily super savvy in the science world, I'm happy to deliver that information to you. Don't forget, like, subscribe, follow, share, do all the things you possibly can, because then that helps us little tiny YouTubers bubble up to the top. It's not all about hashtags and SEO optimization and all that stuff. It's about you, the human person on the other side of this camera, watching this and going, that really made sense. I'm glad I found you. I'm happy to be of service to you however I can, and I hope that you found this informative. Until next time, my friends, eat well, be well, and take care of yourselves.